to this session. And please welcome Ms. Mai Nguyen from Manchester Metropolitan University to the first presentation. So please give her a big applause.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for making time to come to my lecture this morning. My talk is going to be focused on Vietnamese English, which I think would be a topic that many of us in the room would feel relatable. And we're exploring research evolution, variation, and identity with Vietnamese English, mostly in Vietnam. I'd like to acknowledge the generous and very wonderful support from the British Council for our research project. And our project was very proudly part of the UK Vietnam Summit 2023 that everybody mentioned earlier. Before I begin, I'd like to acknowledge that even though I am the presenting author today, this project was and has been very much a team effort because the spirit of the summit is to connect UK and Vietnam in different aspects, especially in arts and education. So in our project, we have two teams of researchers and educators working together. The first team is from the UK, and I am part of the team from Manchester Metropolitan University in Manchester, England. And the second team consists of language teaching researchers and educators from Hay University for Languages International Studies. So in the presentation now, you hear me referring to these two teams using our two universities abbreviations, and then U and Half-Life, just to make it easier. And in our project, we also recruited the support of several students who act as student researchers from both universities as well. Next slide, please. Okay, before we really, delve into the research and what it is about, I'd like everyone in the room to just take maybe 2 minutes, maybe just one, I don't have much time, to reflect on, I think, and I believe that everybody in this room speaks English, right? So can you just take 1 minute and for yourself only, no talking to other people yet. What do you think your English accent may tell others about you? This is 1 minute of individual reflection. I'll let you know when the time is up. Right. And the next 1 minute is for you to turn to anybody next to you, introduce yourself, maybe if you haven't really met, and then share your reflections about what your English accent may tell other people about you with your partner. So another 1 minute, please. And our research is very much inspired by some of the increased focus or attention on Asian Englishes in the past 10 years. Andy Kilpatrick, one of the forefront scholars that studies Asian Englishes, in his 2020 book, asked this question: is English an Asian language? Would you say yes or no? If I ask you that question, is English an Asian language? Would you say yes or no? Yes. Yes? A lot of nods. So I would align with Andy's response as well. But he has to write a whole book and collect and collect a whole corpus of Asian Englishes to respond yes to that question. There's also a recent collection that looks at different varieties of Southeast Asian Englishes, in which Vietnam is a part of. This handbook was published earlier this year, and it included a chapter on English in Vietnam. However, if you look at the research on world Englishes in general, there has been almost no research, particularly on Vietnamese English, that uses primary data or data collected with Vietnamese people who use English within Vietnam. And I'm emphasizing within Vietnam, not abroad. Because there have been some studies looking at the Vietnamese English spoken by Vietnamese expats or VietTESOL people who live and work, Vietnamese people who live and work in another country, in English-speaking countries. But this is not the focus of our research. So in our research, we aim to document the characteristics of Vietnamese English, firstly. Secondly, we want to showcase how these linguistic features intersect with Vietnamese speakers' identity construction when they speak English. And thirdly, we would like to see how this deeper understanding and a more thorough documentation of Vietnamese English could really inform English language learning and teaching in Vietnam, in the local context of Vietnam. We therefore have 3 research questions that are based on those 2 research aims. I'm not going to read the research questions, but within the scope of the presentation today, I'm going to focus on giving you some of the findings that we have found in relation to the first 2 research questions. And if you want to find out more about our third research question, I'll give you the source later on at the end of my presentation. Okay, so our project is essentially a very community-engaging socio-linguistic plus language education project. And so it was carried out in 2023 over the course of the UK-Vietnam season. And within this year, we did 2 phases. Phase 1 involved researchers going out into the wider community to speak to local people in their own environments and record their interactions. And then phase 2, which is more related to language education, involves applying the social linguistic findings of Vietnamese English into the English language classroom. And again, in this presentation, I will focus on phase 1 of the project. To give you a bit more detail about how we collected Vietnamese English samples. Again, it's a community engaging project. So we trained our student researchers to go out into the hot summer weather of Huế last year around this time. And what they did was they went to different locations in Huế where people are likely to be in contact with international visitors, and therefore they need to use English. Places like souvenir shops, hotels, or very popular tourist sites in Huế. And over the course of 2 months, our assistants were able to collect 150 samples of Vietnamese English across the different locations, and also the people that they interviewed work in different occupations. For our analysis, we did two kinds of analysis. The first kind is a speech analysis, where we listen to the recordings and these are audio visual data, because sometimes people were kind enough to let us not just record their voice, but also video record the conversation. So we got some really interesting data excerpts to show you in a minute. So with the features of speech, we looked at the accent, the vocabulary, and the grammar, and analyzed these characteristics of Vietnamese English. With the content of the interactions, we asked people about what they think about English in general, the role of English in their lives, and also what they think about their Vietnamese, and then try and link that with the way that they think, what they think about their Vietnamese English accent. In terms of the content analysis, we also were able to express some common themes that come out of these the participants' responses to how what they think about their English and how they connect their English speech with an identity. So here are the findings. Are you ready for it? Right. These are some very representative data excerpts, I like us to listen to the recording in a minute. But this participant is a hotel bellman in one of the hotels in Hue, and in this excerpt, he's talking about the role of English in his life. Can you play the recording, please? Yeah. Thank you, Han.
I was born in Hue and living until now.
So, do you like English?
I like it very much before I go to work. I use like guitar and sing the voice English for the song music and the love song music from the 1983 and something. But when I play and sing, I don't understand. I don't understand. So some young people tell me, if you go to learn English, you know how about the sexy, how about the romantic in the song. You can love the song so much. So I go to learn in the night tour in Stafford in who was good.
Right. So this participant was telling the interviewee what about student researchers about how his love for English started with English songs, but he didn't quite understand the lyrics of the song. That's why he took night classes in an English language center near his home. Well, in terms of speech analysis, this hotel bellman's English speech has a very, very typical feature of Vietnamese English, that is the elision of final consonant sounds. And I know that if you are an English teacher, that you probably have really gone through this with your students hundreds or even just thousands of times, because in Vietnamese we don't pronounce the final consonant sounds. And when Vietnamese speakers speak English, it's very natural that they transfer some of that into their English speech. But I'd like to emphasize that our research is not focused on identifying or analyzing errors in speeches. We focus on how people use English to communicate, to express themselves, and they don't have to be very proficient in English in order to be considered a Vietnamese English speaker. And actually, when we look further into the scholarship of World English's research, this feature is actually very common across some other Asian English varieties as well, such as Chinese English and Thai English. And I'll come back to this when we discuss the findings. In terms of content analysis, this excerpt shows the very beautiful way English has become a part of life of one of our middle-aged or older generation participants, which shows that English is not just something that young people embrace. It's also very much, it has been loved in Vietnam for a long time. Please, I may have to skip this one. But I want to just show you the beautiful iconic background that we managed to get. This is the Hue Citadel in the background, and this lady is a tour guide. I don't think we have time to listen to her, but you can. I'll give you the link to our website where you could listen to all the recordings. I'd like to just go to our next example, which is quite an interesting take on how our participant or how some participants think about the way that they speak English with a Vietnamese accent. Yeah, because English itself, the accent itself, is so special. Yeah. People from another province, from another real Vietnam, they can define the accent right away. You know, we are so special. We are originally special. So when it comes to English, I speak English is as well. We talk slower. We have a different rhythm in the English. So it's so special, but it's really subtle, different. That's like melody, right? Yeah, the melody. Even in Vietnamese or in English, you bring that melody from Vietnamese into English. And that's so special and it's so subtle that I think just Vietnamese people can recognize it, and not foreigners, not foreigner. I think that's so interesting when people come to the stage and other people in the audience say, "What is this? Great, yeah, this accent, that's so amazing." And we can like promote our group, and we can speak with proud. Could you possibly guess that this doctor is from Huế? If you just listen to the way that she speaks English? She did, but she herself seems to feel really strongly about how her way of speaking English really represents her Huế identity. So that's the content of this excerpt. In terms of the speech analysis, we focused on the L vocalization when for example, when she was saying special. It happens when L vocalization happens when the lateral L sound, consonant sound, is somehow pronounced as if it's like a vowel or a semi-vowel. So a semi-vowel would be a w sound if I'm sorry if you're not a linguist, but L vocalization is a very, very common feature of many varieties of British and American Englishes as well. So this brings us to some of the conclusion about how the way that Vietnamese people, especially the participants in our project, speak English actually is very much, it's a mixture of different kinds of influences. And it's special, it's unique, it's not either right or wrong, but it's a mixture of the first language Vietnamese and also influences. You can see traces of American Englishes, British Englishes in many of the participants' speeches as well. And if you grow up in Vietnam and you've been through our education system, you see how for a long time we were taught following a British model or an American model of English, and that all results in how Vietnamese people speak English nowadays. And in terms of identity, our second research question, we have quite some very interesting results in terms of what people think about their identity when they speak English. So a very, very typical example is what the doctor participant has just shared. Some participants are really proud about how they speak English in a Vietnamese or a Huế way. However, we also have some participants who said that, well, I think my English is not good enough, and but I think my accent is not really good. I must be honest about that. My accent is not really good because the Huế accent is very strong, so I think that it can influence my accent when I speak English. So we have two kinds of response when it comes to whether or not people connect to how they speak English in Huế, and I think that's fair enough. And it's a very interesting phenomenon that we have been looking at in terms of exploring further what implications our research might have for future water machines research and also for language teaching and learning in Vietnam. Right. I'd like to end with some of the key takeaway messages from our study. We wanted to celebrate the evolution of Vietnamese English, and I think we have been able to do that by recording and documenting different samples of Vietnamese English. And also, we wanted to showcase how Vietnamese people speak English in diverse and distinctive ways that represent who they are. which align with many of our participants' views as well. And we want to contribute to research and practice on world Englishes by bringing Vietnamese English onto the world Englishes map. So it becomes more recognized and more and better documented. If you would like to have more information about our study, please go to our website. It's very updated. Just scan that QR code. Or if you're willing to wait a bit further, in 2026, we are currently working on a research monograph that is based on entirely on this project, and it's going to be published as part of the Routledge Studies in World English series. If you want to stay in contact, you can also email me, and I'll let you know when our book is out. But for the time being, you can feel free to explore our Hue English website with some of the most updated information about our project. Thank you so much for your attention.
Yeah. So we still have some time for questions. Thank you, Mai, for your very important and presentation. So, anyone here have any question for her? Please raise your hand. All right. Do you need the microphone?
And first, I'd like to say thank you to your presentation, and I have a question for you because some of my students, when they learn English, they often copy the accents of native speakers. And do you encourage students to do like that when they learn a language? Thank you.
It's a straight no for me. Some people might disagree though, especially parents. But it's a straight no. From a social linguistic and a language education perspective, no, it's never good to try to copy any other accents. So if I were, I was an English teacher before, so I know this. So what I often do is to encourage my students to just be intelligible, try to be understood in English communication, in English conversation, and anything or any features of their speech that make them less intelligible would be worth addressing, but others maybe not. And if you go to our website, you see in phase 2 of our project, we did use some of the samples of Vietnamese English in 3 English language classrooms in Hue, and it has got quite some interesting responses from the students themselves as well. We also have some sample lesson plans that you could use, and the website actually, not sure if I can have, the website has some of the most representative recordings from our data, and please feel free to download these. So these come in either video or an audio clip. And these examples, these are examples of Vietnamese English that could be used in several English lessons in the Vietnamese context, if you like. And then hopefully, once students hear a competent Vietnamese person speak English in a very intelligible way and still communicate effectively, they would somehow change their perspective. And they would just say, okay, I don't have to try and copy any other accent. I can just be myself and be intelligible. But it takes a lot of effort. And because we interview teachers as well. Teachers are more open, but parents are often an obstacle. So if you are a parent, please do not force or even just encourage your children, your child to speak English with any native speaker accent. Just let them be themselves and take that pressure off them. That would be my biggest urge if you are a parent. Pass it on to your